Hey there, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Decepticon Doug, and this is my top 10 list of my favorite video games of all time. This is actually 5 through 1, so if you missed 10 through 6, be sure to click on that one. Yes, don't forget to like and subscribe because I got more stuff like this down the pipeline. We'd love to have you around moving pictures. So, without further ado, let's begin. Number 5. Christmas of 1996 was awesome. My mom bought each of my brothers and I a PC game. My youngest brother got a talking car, purple talking car named Putt Putt. Maybe you remember him. I don't know. My older brother got some sort of Egyptian mystery game, and the one I got was the one that we played the most by a lot. This is my number 5 choice.
We'll be busting out with more cartoon adventures, so stay tuned!
Hey Chisel, did he say busting out? That's the magic word. Yippee! This is so freaky! No, I'm a turd! Look at me! Hey, let me take this for you. You won't be needing it.
If there was ever a game that I quoted the most in my life, it's definitely Stay Tuned. I suspect this is the most obscure entry on my list, but this is basically a point-and-click adventure game in which your whole apartment building has been toonified, and the one way to set it right is to find the remote control, which some crazy toons have stolen and hid somewhere in the building. This is definitely one that is carried by its sense of humor. You click around and it's always just loaded with gags, jokes, and funny musical numbers and hilarious quotable lines.
I have some special games in mind for you!
Parcheesi? I always liked Parcheesi, sometimes on toast.
And actually, it crosses so many genres in just one single game. Well, at its core, it's a point-and-click game. Every room in the apartment has been transformed into some sort of puzzle or minigame, and those can look like anything. There's a Roman Colosseum, sand dune, Wild West town, and post-apocalyptic world. Anything you can think of made its way into this game. So we have shooters, trivia, fighters. There really is something for everyone. Not everything works great. Our Mortal Kombat spoof I remember being particularly janky, but the comedic payoff was worth it. But again, this game is a comedy through and through, so even through some of its technical shortcomings, you really stay for the humor and the cartoon characters. These tunes play off some very typical cartoon tropes, but they work despite or possibly because of that. You really start to feel like you know these characters. There's Pixel and Chisel, the two cat siblings who are the smart and goofy antagonists that are more or less running the mayhem in your building. There's Frank, the bulky goon, Schmooze, the smooth-talking dog, Dr. Pickles, the mad scientist, and Scoops, the dog who can't talk but can sing like a crooner.
Well, you might have a doubt, but I'm a dog with clout. I'm one tough tune.
But my favorite character is Fiddle, the helpless cat who sides with you but also becomes the butt of all the other tunes' jokes. I have so many fond memories of this game growing up, and it's just so quotable that I still spew out lines from this game on the regular. So I wish more people understood my references. It's just my older brother who gets them all, and that's it. Sadly, I don't really know a way to play this game today, but you can see a lot of it on YouTube, so it's not completely forgotten. So check that out if you're curious. Number 4. Some of my earlier choices were multi-genre, very time-consuming games, ones that required a level of dedication. But sometimes I want something that's a little more straightforward. I know exactly what the objective is, and I'm heading right there. If it's done well, you can have games like my number 4 choice. For the longest time, I told myself that I much preferred the Super Nintendo Star Fox because I actually used to own that one, and I was much more nostalgic for it. But when it comes down to it, Star Fox 64 really is just the better game. And also, at this point, I am just as nostalgic for it as I am the original. While the original has a better soundtrack, this game just feels more whole and polished. And it has more character, to be honest. The script is delightfully melodramatic, with quotable lines pretty much right out of a space opera.
My Emperor! I failed you! We need your help, Star Fox! I can't move!
The acting meets the script where it is. It's all sold with the right amount of conviction, both hammy and sincere. It really dances that line, and future Star Fox games just haven't nailed it in the same way. Most games were done better on the GameCube because it was the more powerful system and learned from the growing pains of the Nintendo 64. But not Star Fox. Neither GameCube game carries the same weight as Star Fox 64. Somehow, they just did it right here. And I love how you can just pick up this game and go. The controls are perfectly intuitive and it's really not that hard to beat depending on which path you take. But getting the achievements is where the real challenge lies. You have to play the game a lot to get good enough to unlock everything. But that's fine because it's the kind of game where you want to play it over and over again. I love the additions that this game made, like all-range mode, dogfights, the rival team Star Wolf, and the more personal story about Fox and his father. Though classic Star Fox did one thing better, and that's the metallic Andross face over this really weird floating ape head choice. Still, the cheese is part of the charm. Amazing that this game is about 25 years old and for some reason Nintendo still hasn't topped it. I don't understand why, but apparently making a good Star Fox game is harder than it looks. So kudos to the team of Star Fox 64 for making this one basically perfect. Number 3. When making a list that's this broad, there are a lot of variables you need to consider, and one of the things I always had to think about was how many hours of my life have these games taken from me, and number 3, probably the most. I think it's pretty hard to dispute that one of the best real-time strategy games ever is StarCraft. It's such a good game that Blizzard couldn't even beat it with StarCraft 2. If you're watching this, I doubt you need much explanation, but you can play as 3 alien races, the Terrans, the Zerg, and the Protoss, and the balance between these races is so fair that there really isn't a clear choice on who is better. It really is who you choose to master. Me, I can go with any of them, but I'm also not as good at this game as many people are. But that never bothered me because I didn't really go in for the online experience as many people did. I played mostly private matches with family because the cutthroat competitiveness of online multiplayer actually turned me off of it. StarCraft is my game and I wasn't interested in being rushed by Zerglings. I enjoyed the process of building my base and economy. I might be in the minority here, but I like playing StarCraft the most for the single-player campaigns and the amazing story that went along with it. StarCraft's story is awesome and has real societal issues discussed within. There's the complex politics and civil war in the Terran campaign, discussion of dogmatic religion and how it can control politics in the Protoss campaign, and I don't really know what the Zerg story is about. Maybe power and unity? A story of identity and brainwashing, perhaps? Whatever the case, it's really amazing science fiction, and the universe they created for this game is rich and fascinating. And it really set a new standard for voice acting in video games. The work in StarCraft is pretty par for the course right now, but at the time, it was a cut above the contemporaries. Listen to the first Resident Evil from 1996.
What is this? Stop it! Don't open that door! What is it?
Now StarCraft from 1997.
Out of the many, we shall forge an indivisible whole, capitulating only to a single throne. And from that throne, I
shall watch over you. From this day forward, let no human make war upon any other human. Let no Terran agency conspire against this new beginning. And let no man consort with alien powers. And to all the enemies of humanity, seek not to bar our way. For we shall win through, no matter the cost.
Like, seriously, it's mature, involving storytelling, tight and balanced gameplay, and a hell of a soundtrack. Everything in StarCraft works. But, like, I need to tell you why StarCraft is great. As a side note, I also really liked building levels in the campaign editor. I built a whole 10-part sequel to Brood War and got deeply involved in building off that story. Sadly, all that work is lost, melted down with some discarded hard drive over 15 years ago. But man, that was fun and really enriched my StarCraft experience. Number 2. Another top contender for games that have taken hours and hours of my life away is the fighting game that changed the game and defined a generation. This is my number 2 choice. Look, I know Smash Ultimate is out there, and it is objectively a fuller, more involving experience, but these are very subjective picks. And also, let's face it, all of the more recent Smash Bros. Titles are basically just variations of the Melee template. It's all been shinier versions of this one with an ever-growing roster and levels. They're all great, and I'm glad the series is still going, but this one is for me. It capitalized on an amusing, novel premise and turned it into a powerhouse franchise. I played Classic Mode, Adventure Mode, the challenges, and most of all, I battled my brothers and friends for countless hours after school. And while I never got to that insane competitor level that is out there, I got pretty damn good if I dare say so myself. At my prime with Fox, I could beat most players I fought against. But also, I never fought anyone on that competitive level. Truth is, I'm not very good at fighting games. I don't remember button combos for special moves very well, so I'm really just a brawler with the basic punches and kicks, so I can never get that far with games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and all those. And something like Killer Instinct would probably stump me. I like fighting games just fine, but I'll never tango with the best players. But Super Smash Bros. Breaks down that combat in a much more simple way. Just like many of my favorite games, it's easy to pick up, but difficult to master. But because picking it up is so much fun, mastering it becomes a real joy. The replay of the game is endless. One of my first experiences playing with this was at a sleepover at my best friend's place. We tasked ourselves with earning all the characters in a single night just by playing verse matches. We almost got all the characters, but I think we tapped out to sleep before earning Mewtwo. It was a great night and a real special memory, but I'd be sick of most games after that many retina-burning hours of play. But man, even after that, I was totally on board with playing more and more Super Smash Bros. The GameCube for sure was an underrated system, but if there was any one reason to pick it up, it would be Super Smash Bros. Melee. Number 1. I have so many amazing memories of my favorite game, but my first memory was actually before we even got the game. My mom brought home a VHS tape. It had a bunch of like green trees on it, and inside it had the super cheesy 90s promotional video of my favorite game. Here it is. The excitement of this game was real. It was a trendsetter for graphics, bringing in a demand for pre-rendered 3D models and blah 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 blah. I don't care how it was done. I just thought it was gorgeous. It was one of the best looking games of the 16-bit generation. It also is one of the best sounding games of the era as well. The Donkey Kong Country soundtrack is the gold standard for retro game soundtracks. David Wise really captured a sense of wonder and adventure with his work here. It really sets a tone for the game that isn't quite as bouncy and fun as Mario games, or as adventurous as Zelda games. It's moody and atmospheric, complementing the scenery. I listen to the music from this game all the time, and it really is the first soundtrack that made me interested in listening to video game music more recreationally. But what it comes down to is that this is a well-designed game with a perfect amount of challenge. The controls are smooth and intuitive. It's just a perfect example of a well-polished platformer, handling just as well as any Mario game. It can be so much fun bouncing off enemies to propel you further, or using your momentum to roll through a line of snakes or beavers. It's just so much fun to pick up and play. You can feel it right away. While in 2-player mode you can't play at the same time, it's still more cooperative than, say, a Mario Brothers game, because you can switch between the two of you at a whim, and you can take over right at the point where your friend failed, so it just made for a better multiplayer experience. But whether 1 or 2 players, I had a great time. It's not a perfect game. As many people point out, the bonus stages are redundant and the bosses are a bit too easy, and many of the issues are addressed and improved upon in its sequel, Diddy's Conquest. But the first game will always have an edge on the other games because of that nostalgia factor. Let's not kid ourselves. Nostalgia plays a part in our favorite anything. Nothing puts me back into my 8-year-old boots quite like Donkey Kong Country. If you grew up in the 16-bit generation, you must have played Donkey Kong Country. And if not, you should do yourself a favor and play it. It is a significant chapter in the story of retro gaming, but more importantly, it's just a fun time. And it's my favorite video game of all time. And those are my top 10 favorite video games. Be sure to let me know your choices in the comments down below, because 10 isn't that many. I'm sure I missed a lot. So maybe I didn't play that game that you love so much, or maybe it just wasn't able to make the top 10. And that's okay, I want to hear about it and play your games sometime down the road. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and be sure to like and subscribe because that really helps the channel out a lot. So I better end this before the cats knock the camera down. So, oh, there we go. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.